Hey guys, welcome to another ride in the Struggle Bus, where every wheel's an empty triangle. On today's bus ride, we get to visit the ancient ruins of a once prosperous land known as KGS. That's right, we're mixing things up a little bit today, and we're gonna go play over on the older server. We're gonna be playing against a 13K. The game really showcases what happens when one player gets a lot of influence and the other player makes a lot of weak groups. That's what happens here. We play a pretty influential game, and then our opponent leaves some weak groups behind, and we are able to bully them around and form a pretty big moyo. So you can look forward to that in this game. As per always, I'd like to thank our opponent for playing us today. I'd like to thank you guys for watching these videos, and I'd like to thank my patrons for supporting this channel. And so with that introduction out of the way, let's get ourselves into a game. Okay, let's go. We are black against a 13K on KGS. We are expanding where our bus rides. I've been trying to get some games over here as well. It's just been a little trickier. It's not as popular of a server, but I wanted to mix it up. And so here we are. So either way, we will be following the rules. We'll see how well our friend will be following the rules today. So we can look at extending or approaching. I always like approaching. I always like splitting the side that my opponent is playing on. So I will approach their 3/4 stone high just to split. But as you guys know by now, we could have played pretty much any corner and it would have been fine. Okay, so they are approaching, they're choosing to Tanuki, which is interesting. We will respond to this. We will just back off. If they slide in, I might be compelled to go answer over here, but let's see. Okay, so they backed off. In this situation, I like to kick, because if I had kicked and they extended and then I slid and then I jumped back, usually they would play either R10 or Q10, right? Getting that nice 3-space extension off of 2 stones. But here, if they extend, it'll only be a 2-point extension. Not a big deal, just a little more over-concentrated than they probably want to be. And so when they jump back here, I usually choose to retroactively kick. Okay, and so they choose to descend. And so we're starting with an early second line move, and I don't think we are going to answer that quite yet. I think it's a little too early for our second line moves. At least that's what the rules say. So let's go back to this corner where they didn't respond, and we're just going to attach. This is the follow-up I usually go with off of the 4th line stone approach here. If I'd approached at P3 and they ignored, I would have pressed down at Q5. So they honey, we will pull back, and I think the normal shape move is S5 here. And the reason that we don't like playing this is now at any point in time I can play S2 and get life. As where before they, if they had S5, this cut would be protected. So either way, we're going to extend here, finish out our base. Again, a little too early to be playing a second line move right now, but this will be there in the future in case this group gets pressured a little bit. Okay, and so now they are extending low. This kind of breaks the rule of saying, balance our 3rd and 4th line stones with 2 3rd line stones here. Also, if you're extending off of a 3/4 stone, typically we like extending on this side, either with the knight's move, large knight's move, 2-space. So for now, I think I'm going to leave this alone and just go extend off of this corner, and then see if they play on the side, or if they extend, if they do a double extension off of this 3/4 stone. But this left side is probably the largest area on this board. So let's see what our friend plays. Okay, so they are jumping into the 3/3, and you want to know what? I do like it, right? It's a good follow-up to this S14 stone. So we can block, and I think that's probably what we're going to do. If we play here, we're going to get over-concentrated and white can connect a little too easily. So we're going to descend here to keep their groups separated, and they are going to try to connect underneath. I think it is worth blocking here. I know it's a first line move, but we're going to get some strength off of this because this does threaten to kill, and that is the first line in our rule of don't play early first or second line moves unless it's needed to live or kill. Then we are allowed to play those moves. So we could have played Q17, but that was kind of the same as playing that to begin with. And since I chose to descend it S14, I feel like I'm obligated to, or S15 rather, I feel like I'm obligated to play in the first line here. Okay, and so they extend this way. I think we can just play here. I'm not too concerned about this cut because we've got some pretty good strength. So we will block here and make it really tough to live in here. I'm not sure white is able to live, but let's see if they can find a way. So this is threatening both cuts. We are certainly going to connect. The question is, are we going to connect here or here or here? And I think I like the tiger's mouth here, but maybe just connecting solidly is the safest way. And you want to know what? We want to protect our cuts because that's one of our rules. And so I'm just going to protect the cut so that there is no cut at P16. If I had played Q14, there'd be an Atari here, and then there could be some follow-ups, and then we'd be cut. And we don't want to break that rule. Okay, and very unsurprisingly, they play the Hane to try to live. But again, I'm not so sure. Not so sure. I think if they play Q19, maybe, but with us being able to push at T16, this group could just be dead. I think I'm going to leave this alone for now, though, and go and approach this corner over here. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the low approach here. We've got some fourth line stones here. Got some influence here, so I want to balance that with some third line stones. And so that is why I decided to play low here. Okay, and so they kick. We will extend. Anytime you get kicked, you typically want to answer it. Okay, guys, show of hands, who hates pincers? Well, I used to hate pincers. I'm much more comfortable with them now. But I've been seeing a lot of questions and complaints and concerns about what do we do when we get pincered. Now, in this situation, it's a little different because we kind of knew we were going to get pincered here because G3 was already on the board. But nevertheless, we have now been pincered, and what do we do with this? Pincers tend to be pretty complicated. They can really make the game complicated, especially locally, especially if it creates a fight that oozes across the board. But either way, what do we do here? What is our plan now that we are pincered? How are we going to approach this and make sure that our opponent doesn't get both a large corner and a large side? So I'm curious, do you guys know how to handle a pincer like this? What would be your plan? Let me know in the comments and let me know if it lines up with what my general strategy is in this game and in general when I deal with pincers. Anyway, back to the game. And they followed up with a pincer, which I like as a move. They already have G3 placed, so they don't need another stone over here. So I do like this pincer. Going to jump out here to cap this stone, continue to keep him a little low, while also strengthening our group here. And as this group gets strength, we can potentially go after their stone here. We will block. We want to make sure that we can't get cut too easily. There is still a cut here, but I think we will be able to handle it well enough. Now they look to run out that way, but I think we are strong enough to go after this stone now. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play our counter pincer now that we've got our strength, and that's often what I look to do when I get pincered, is run out with the group, get strength, and then go after their pincer stone. White obviously gets some good development here, especially since they already had an extra stone, right? So we expect locally for them to get a better exchange here. But regardless, this is how I typically handle pincers. I know people often struggle with pincers. I definitely did for a very long time. It took a long time for me to be comfortable getting pincered. But now that now that I'm stronger with using influence, that's really what helped with pincers, was learning how to more effectively use a wall like this to go after their pincer stone. Okay, and so they jump out. I'm wondering. I've been looking at this. Uh, I think this is worth playing. It threatens to push through. It connects our stones. So I'm going to take this exchange uh, just to fully fix this cut, and then we can continue doing something going after these stones. I'm not so sure what we're going to get out of this though, because it's not like our group is very, very strong. But I think we can look at jumping out here to try to get ahead on this side and build up some good potential here. I always mention that when you attack stones, you want to make sure that you're getting profit somewhere. And so in this case, the profit is going to be developing some potential here. Of course, as this group gets stronger, this group's going to be under attack, and so white will be able to get profit somewhere as well, possibly being able to get some forcing moves here to turn this into a larger potential. So a very strong shape move. It's a little slow from a movement standpoint, but very, 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 very strong from a shape standpoint. So I think we do need to respect this move. And so I wonder if we need to block here or if we need to run out with this now. And I think this group is more important. I don't think the cut is too painful here. If we need to sacrifice C10, then we can. So let's attach to this stone as a means of getting strength and being able to get out. This is not a weak stone, so attaching to it is okay. Okay, so as where this move was a good strong shape move, if a little slow, this move unfortunately is just very slow, and was not needed for shape. White really needed to jump out here or responds to this, right? We attached to their stone and they didn't respond. So we're going to take this Hane now, and then most likely look to connect. It probably would have been better if I just extended, but I think this will work out fine. So let's protect our cut here, though that does leave a cut here, which is why once I played this, I realized that was going to leave a cut behind. It breaks one of our own rules. Sometimes I break the rules too. It happens. Go is a tough game. Okay, so they're going to take this exchange. I don't think that really helps. Forces us to connect. I do wonder if they are going to take this cut. They do not. So how do we want to handle this? I think we just want to play here. We do need to respect this cut. So if we had Hanade, they could have Atari'd and then extended. It probably would have been okay for us, but I know that this is okay. And again, as we get strength, this group is going to be able to be a target for an attack. And with them pushing here, I think we're just going to play the Tiger's Mouth, which will fully protect this cut. It'll protect this cut. I think that will work out fine. And they attach to this stone. We will Hane, stay ahead. We are certainly strong enough to be able to take this Hane. But white needs to be very careful leaving these 4 stones behind. I think that is a bit too much to sacrifice. And so I really think they needed to come strengthen this group. Before we attack this, though, let's make sure that this doesn't become too much. It's pretty easy to invade and or reduce, but I think I'm just going to play here just as a pure invasion. These 3 stones aren't really strong enough to be able to resist this too firmly. So that is why I decided to play a 3rd line move as opposed to a 4th line move. 4th line move would keep them lower, but would give them strength. And normally we play our shoulder hits when their group is already strong, but I don't consider this a strong group. And so I did not want to play moves that would make their group stronger. Okay, so when you dive in deep like this and they play a knight's move, often the first move you should consider is attaching to the stone that they just played, and that is where we're going to play. Sometimes this move doesn't work, but it's the first move you should consider. We could also look at this diagonal, maybe an attachment here, but again, if they're trying to block your stone with a knight's move, often just attaching is the way to go. Because if they hane, we can extend, which gets us stronger, gets us more liberties, and keeps us connected. So now they fall back. I think that's a little too timid. I'm just going to extend here. I think this is the simplest way to go about it. We certainly could have considered the hane here, but I want to keep nice and strong. I don't want to introduce any cuts that we don't need to, because we've got a weak group here we can go after. We've got a weak group here we can go after. And so as long as we stay nice and strong and don't have any weaknesses of our own, then we don't have to worry about this group if a fight happens. Okay, so they are looking to connect underneath. This is a 2nd line move that I will play because we want to keep this group nice and weak so that we can profit off of it. And so we will play this 2nd line move in this situation because it keeps these stones separated. They connect, we will connect. And this makes this group even weaker after this exchange, because we now have these 2 stones. It's 1 less liberty for his group, and now fully separates from connecting to the corner. Okay, so now they are going to lean onto our stone to get strength, and that is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. And so we are just going to hane here, and again, just like all of our other attacks and videos that we've done, the goal here is not to kill these stones. We might end up killing them, but that isn't the goal. The goal is to get profit somewhere. Force them to live small while we build a nice wall. So in this case, getting D11 for free is quite good. It's going to translate into a lot of points here. And they're not really going to get too much out of this. With that said, their corner and side fairly large, but the cost of getting that was the weakness in this group. So I'm going to Atari this stone, and then I'm going to protect our cut. Or maybe I'm going to capture. Let's see, because if we capture, this comes in Sente, because if they don't block, then we can push and cut. So I am going to capture, and I believe they need to connect. And this is a little dangerous for white. We can just cut and deal with the co-fight. We can connect and then go and push through here. We can also Atari and then push through here. And I think that's probably the better way. I'm going to take this Atari, and this isn't going to be much of a co-fight. They can capture, but then I'm just going to extend. White still has to find a way to live on the side, which isn't going to be easy. And while that happens, we are going to solidify. So this was our potential, and white is now breaking in, but we get to transition that potential. Now that potential, after we take this cut, basically just transitioned to here. And now it's even stronger, right? So we have just as much potential here, if not more, and this is more secure. And we still have some potential here. So this was a very good exchange for us. And they unsurprisingly take to start the ko. We have to connect. We can't let white capture. So we will connect here. And if they connect, they're probably dead. I think they need to play b12 if they, to get any chance to live. It'll still be difficult for white to live here. Oh, this is quite dangerous for white. They really needed to let these stones go. So I think we can just play something like this to look to make sure that these stones can't escape. And so that is what we will do. We will play here to block their escape. Notice as we're doing this that we are developing even more potential here. So this is going to be another situation where even if these 3 stones live, if somehow they escape out and connect, it'll be okay, because while that's happening, we are building this amazing wall, and we'll be able to turn this all into points. Okay, so the Atari, we are obviously going to connect here. And white is going to continue to try, but I do not think this is going to work too well, because we can just block and force them to get closer and closer to our very mighty wall. And it's also worth noting that this group on the left is still not alive yet. So this is the consequence of breaking the rule of not every stone is important. White really needed to identify that these stones needed to be given up, because as they try to save every single stone, it's going to turn out pretty poorly for them. So again, in this case, white might find a way to be able to connect out, but as that's happening, we're just building up a huge center. That will be too big for white to overcome. Especially since there's a corner that's still not quite alive. These 3 stones are still not quite alive. This group still isn't quite alive. So there's a lot of stuff that white needs to take care of here. Okay. I think we can just play here. I wonder if we can also just block here. I think blocking here is probably the answer. So that is what I'm going to do. We do need to be cautious about this cut here. So if white descends here, we will have to connect. And so connect we shall. Okay, and so now they are looking to make some eye shape here. But I don't think there's enough room for white to really do anything here. So how do we want to go about this? I just want to make sure that we stay nice and strong outside, because again, it is okay if white lives here. So we will just block here, get immortal on the outside of this group, and then just turn this into our points. And I think that'll be enough to win this game. Again, I don't think white has enough eye space here. They would need to play g9 and h9 and h6. I think that's just a little too much. And so how do we want to handle this? I usually don't like killing groups in these games, but in this situation, I'm unsure if I have a choice really in the matter. So I'm going to play here, mainly because I think they were still probably dead with J7, and I can't let them die in Gote. I am not. I refer to that as the cardinal sin of Go. Do not die in Gote, and I just can't let our opponent do it. He was too kind to play this game with us today, and I'm not gonna let that happen. So hopefully he at least can see that this group's probably dead and that he should Tanuki. But that is not what's going to happen. Okay, so I will play here, and I will see if this will let them know. Okay, and so the Atari, we will connect. We don't need to bother with the co. We can just connect and everything is fine. And do they live if they play h6? They do not. So I think again they have died in Gote. I'm not willing to let that happen. But I think they're already dead. I think if we Tanuki and they play h6, we can play j6. And if they play g6 at that point, we can Atari. Or if they play j8, we can Atari. So this group looks dead, but I'm going to play here. I want to see where our friend plays if they Tanuki. They do Tanuki. Okay. So there's a cut here that we maybe need to protect. It's probably not as big as up here or over here, but I will protect this cut. I'll just play here. Okay, so they do finally come back to get this group alive. So that is good to see. We will happily keep them on the second line while they get life and we get strength on the outside. Okay, and they recognize that this group was also under attack. And so I'm just going to stay consistent and continue to develop this. And so I'm just going to play this diagonal here with the goal of turning this Moyo into actual points. And so they are playing here. We will just jump. This is the easiest way to block this. They peep. We will connect. And this is a little unfortunate of a move. I'm not sure what this does. So at this point in time, I think we're gonna skip ahead to the end of the game. This one's pretty much over. If something interesting happens in between, I'll come back to the video. But otherwise, I will see you guys at the end of this one, and we'll go over how our friends could have handled it a little better. So I will catch you guys at the end of this game. Okay, so here we are at the end of the game, and it went about as we expected it to end, except for this unfortunate ko at the end. I did not force this ko. I was just doing a reduction move, and it went a little sideways for our opponent, but that is okay. So let's do a review and see where our friend could have gone a little better. Okay, so here we are in the review. We'll be taking a look at this from the perspective of white. All this is fine. Tanukiing is fine. I often recommend to respond to the opening moves and finish the variations, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with this move. I would just expect white to do one of the variations. But again, I want to point out there's nothing wrong with this move. So we back off, and white extends back here. If this is what white wants to do, I do recommend finishing out the variation here, just because it's important to, it's not hugely important, but it's important to get this stone first, because if we come back here and then I kick and white does the normal extension here, now this stone really wants to be here. It's not a huge deal, just a little over concentrated. So anyway, so white descends and plays the second line move. I do think it would be better to have played the fourth line move, right? Fourth line moves are typically more important than second line moves early in the game. So moving on, we play this white Hanes, we extend, and I mentioned in game that this is the shape move. The reason for that is now when we play this, it's not sensei at all. As where when white plays here later in the game, we can play this to pretty much instantly get alive, because now white either has to connect here to let us live, or to not lose his stone rather, or give that up and then we're alive. This isn't something we would do now, but that is why this is the typical shape move. So we play here, and then white does this strange extension. If we're going to extend off of a 3/4 stone, typically we're doing it in this direction. We're going to play one of these 4 extensions. They all have their pros and cons, but that's typically the direction we're going to extend from our 3/4 stone. This is just a little flat because they already have a third line stone here. Now they've got another third line stone. And I'd prefer to see a balance. But also, we play 3-4 stones to enclose the corner, and so typically that's what you want to do when you extend off of this. So we extended off of our 3-4 stone, and they jumped into our corner. This is too early. There's certainly Aji here. There's certainly stuff that can be done for white, but this is just too early in the game to be playing this. And this is something that I see frequently from newer players is they feel like they need to, they need to strike while the iron's hot, right? Like just, I see a weakness and I'm going to go after it, but that weakness is going to be there for a long time. You don't need to do it right now. And so I would have liked to have seen something on the left side of the board, somewhere over here. If it's this, or approaching our corner here, or extending off of their stone, something on the left side of the board, I think is more important than just jumping into our corner, because this is a tough situation. If you don't know the variations, it's really easy to die here as white, which is what ended up happening here. This is a dead shape. We can likely just play this right now to kill. I don't think there's anything that white can do here, because there's T16. There's too much. We Tanukid, because we're not in the business of killing large groups in these games. And so they kick, we extend, and they pincer. And I like this. This is the correct move, right? This is what I would play. But it complicates the game, and you have to be able to follow this up. So this is something that comes up a lot. People don't know how to deal with pincers, and I'm right there with you. I was horrifically weak with them for a very, very long time, until I was not too much weaker than I am now. Is when I finally got comfortable with pincers. So I jump out because I'm looking to get strength. I don't like this exchange because it forces me to get stronger. It forces black to get stronger, and it's possible that later you're going to want to be able to get this peep and get strength on the outside. And so doing this, it ruins some Aji, right? It forces me to connect up and get some strength that white probably doesn't want to deal with, especially now that we get this pincer. So white jumps, we take this exchange, and then we do this. I like this as a shape move. I think this was a strong move by white. We play here to get strength, and then this is probably where things really start going downhill, because this move is essentially a pass, right? This is not where we want the strength to be for this group. This group needs to run out. So we really needed to do something like play here or here. Both are good shape moves. We could have extended first, right? Let black do this and then jump out here. Those are options, but this is too slow, and it's just not in a good direction. We already couldn't cut here. This already wasn't really a concern, because white can give up that one stone and it's fine. This isn't going to be something that black is interested in. So this was just a little slow. Well, a lot slow. This was a lot slow. Gives us a free move. Like I said, I made a mistake. This probably should have probably just extended here. But yeah, things are going to get significantly tougher now that we've just got this huge monstrous wall right next to a weak group. And that's exactly what you want your walls to do. That's exactly where you want them to be, is against a group like this, because we could have turned immediately on this group and just done this to try to pressure those stones, potentially even kill them while developing this big Moyo, which is what ended up happening this game anyway. But we went and got some strength here first. So I was able to play this as firmly as I did this game because of T15. because of this being undercut, this group's really, really weak right now. And so we can, as we get strength here, we're both getting strength against these 4 stones and these 3 stones. And it's just going to be, from here on out, it's very difficult for white because we've got too many weak groups on this board. And that's really what it comes down to is white was making a lot of exchanges that were making me stronger while not making them stronger. And it looks like, when you look at exchanges like the bottom left, it looks like white's getting a lot out of this deal because, white's probably getting a solid 25 points here, but we get this huge wall, which we can probably turn into 25 points, which is, what ended up happening because we did end up killing a group here because of the strength of this group. So while white's making these exchanges and making us stronger, our strength is going to turn into points later. That's how things work. And so they threaten to connect, we connect, and things get real interesting here. But I'm not sure what we can do. I don't think these stones survive. I really think the only option white has at this point is maybe doing this peep and then doing something like this to try to run. But as this is happening, we're going to be able to to play along here, and as white goes to connect up, we're just going to be getting this huge moyo. But that doesn't happen. We get this interesting exchange here, and then we cut off these 2 stones, and that really just finishes the big center. So this is the next big thing in this game that I noticed is, we need a willingness to be able to give up some stones. White's trying to save everything on this board, and that just gets you in a lot of trouble. We need to recognize that these 2 stones, they're dead. We can't save them. The best we can do in a situation like this is maybe play a move like this, right? To threaten to connect up and force black to capture. Black probably wouldn't respond this way. I would not respond this way. But this would be a successful use of these stones. Force black to capture on a small scale as opposed to a large scale. Losing these 2 stones isn't going to lose you the game by themselves, right? They're not big enough for it to matter. If white forces us to capture this way, that's not a lot of points for us. It really, really isn't. But when this happens and white goes to run out, now we start capturing on a large scale. Now if these stones die, we're going to be getting 25 points for it, as opposed to just 6 points for capturing the 2 before. So this is where things really, really get out of hand. And as I mentioned, even if white lives here, even if we do something like this, and I don't know how exactly white could live, but let's just say that this happened, and I poked at this, and they connect, and hooray, white is alive now. It comes at a huge cost. Like this moyo is going to be large enough to win the game, and also unfortunately, white still has these 3 stones to be concerned about, and we've got this newfound strength. So it's unlikely this group's going to live, and even if it does, it's going to be small, and then we're just going to get this entire area. That's just too much. So unfortunately, white created a few too many weak groups on this board, and that's really, we were able to really take advantage of that because of the influence that we were able to build up early in the game, and then use that influence to bully the weak groups. So I think that's where we're going to leave this one for today. Thank you guys for coming out for another ride in the Struggle Bus, where every wheel is an empty triangle. Have a good one, guys.